Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. On today's show, we'll check in with the City of Ames Communications Center. My guest today is Quinn Zurcher with the Ames Police Department's Dispatch Center. Quinn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about what you do at the Dispatch Center and how you came to do what it is you do.
Absolutely. Well, I'm the Public Safety Quality Assurance Coordinator. What I do is I analyze our dispatch calls. I primarily look at some of our calls for ambulances, our medical related calls, and I kind of take a look at what the dispatchers are doing, what instructions they're giving, and what we could do better to provide better service. I came on, I had a lot of interest in EMS. I have some training as a EMT. I have some training as a dispatcher. We kind of put those together to form my position. So we undertook this medical priority dispatching system several years ago, and to coordinate that, we needed someone to take a look and analyze these calls. So that's kind of where my position comes from.
So in Ames, we have what people would know about is dispatching. When people dial 911 or into the dispatch center, you are basically logistics. But also, dispatching can go this sort of second level into medical dispatch, which is when people call in to get assistance, you're actually talking them through perhaps a medical emergency before paramedics arrive on scene.
That is absolutely right, and that's one of the great things about this new medical priority dispatch system is it allows us to give a number of different instructions for many different situations, giving life-saving on-scene care. That is incredibly important because some of these more dangerous calls can be affected by your interaction with the patient in seconds. So it's very important that these dispatchers can give this information as soon as possible. We're also providing responders with the most accurate, up-to-date information, so when they get on scene, they're going to hit the ground running.
So somebody calls in, they've noticed maybe they're in a restaurant or a place where there's a lot of people, maybe there's somebody unconscious. When they're calling into you, you're having them sort of assess the situation and give them the information back, and then you're giving them instruction on what to do?
Exactly right. As a caller, they need to be prepared to be our eyes and ears. We need to first assess the patient and assess the scene. We need to make sure there's no dangerous situations that our paramedics are going to be walking in on. And foremost, they need to be prepared to help the patient as soon as they possibly can. In some cases, the caller needs to act as the patient care person. They need to be the one to provide these interventions. It's incredibly difficult. These are some of the scariest moments of a person's life. But that's why it's so incredibly important to stay as calm and focused as possible and listen very carefully to the instructions we give you.
So this is a whole step beyond just stand there and wait for responders to show up. You're actually telling the person who called you, here are the things you can do to make this a more positive outcome.
Yes, that was actually originally how we had things done. You would call in and we would simply dispatch the paramedics. The problem with that is in the chain of survival, this stuff can take seconds. Brain damage can occur within minutes. It's very important to provide CPR as soon as possible, things like that. So when we're providing an assessment of the patient that the priority dispatch system dictates that we need to provide these interventions immediately, yes, sometimes we will ask you, if you're comfortable, to provide any help you can possibly give, and we will walk you through it every step of the way.
So say a person calls in to dispatch, they're told to do something either they're physically unable or mentally unprepared to do. Do you say just give the phone to somebody else, or do you look for somebody else that can help you?
If at all possible, we would look for somebody else to provide that life-saving care. But in the worst case scenario, if it does fall to you, if you're unable or unwilling to provide that help, we're just going to do the best we can on our end. We'll try and gain as much information as we can. We'll keep asking you a couple questions, again, so the paramedic can hit the ground running as soon as they get there. But we're not going to force you, obviously, to do anything you're not comfortable with.
I know that at City Hall, we have these defibrillators all around the facility. when going through the defibrillator training, just little things that they ask you to think about. Is your unconscious person in water? Things like that, that as a layperson, you may not know dangers that are out there. Maybe you want to react quickly. I mean, do you have a checklist, or how do you know how to assess a situation where you can't actually see it?
Absolutely. Our medical priority dispatching system is internationally accredited, and it is up to date. It is actually very incredible how versatile it is. If we had someone who is near water, we have a protocol that we can go to that will address a lot of very common scene safety issues. We won't prompt the use of an AED, and we will adjust to fit the scene situation. That's again why it's so important to get as much information as we can so we can adapt to what the scenario is.
So if somebody calls in, there's a medical emergency, are you just instantly asking them questions, sort of setting the scene?
Yes. We're going to answer the phone with 911, what's the address of your emergency? And that's going to start from there. We need to know the address, we need to know your phone number, and then the most important part is we're going to tell you, or ask you to tell me exactly what happened. And this is the key point. This is going to dictate what interventions we use, what path we lead you down, and what instructions we give you. So we're going to try and get as much information as possible, and sometimes it's going to seem like a lot, but it is all very necessary to give to the paramedics. So once again, they can get ready to go as soon as they get on scene.
So you're going to be asking somebody about the victim, the age, the size, how they look?
No, we're going to ask for what happened, tell me exactly what happened, and then we're going to ask for the approximate age. If you don't know the patient's age, that's okay. Then we're going to ask some very general questions. Can you tell me if the patient is breathing? Can you tell me if they're awake and conscious? And then kind of based on what the scenario is, we're going to move on from that to a secondary assessment where we're going to address the specific issues. If they're having headaches, we're going to ask you a little bit about that. If they're unconscious, we're going to address some of their immediate needs. If they're having a stroke, we're going to deal with stuff like that. And then we'll move on with what instructions we can give you from there.
What if my answer is I don't know, I don't know, I don't know? Am I helping?
Yeah, absolutely. That is perfectly okay to say you don't know. I would say it's actually worse to give us information that is false or incorrect. There is no problem with feeling pressured or that you don't know what's going on. That's perfectly understandable in these situations. And there is a caveat in the system to answer unknown. That's perfectly okay. But once again, it's so important to stay calm and try and assess the situation yourself.
I do know from the defibrillator training that they kind of had that magic window of getting help right away in those first few seconds or minutes after a trauma or an incident. So your experience has told you that it really does make a difference if people can jump in there?
Absolutely. CPR needs to start immediately, and it needs to continue as long as the patient is unconscious and not breathing. It's so incredibly important in the chain of survival to begin those interventions as soon as possible.
And we're fortunate here in Ames where our first responders, our EMTs, our paramedics are really on the scene within minutes.
That is absolutely correct. The average time for our call is anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes.
So it may seem like a lot longer when you're on the phone, but help is really truly on the way.
From the moment we pick up the phone to the moment we put it down, absolutely. We're getting help to you, and we're getting them information as soon as we absolutely can.
So Quinn, I got to tell you, this sounds like a really intense job. How do dispatchers deal with that sort of intensity and stress that comes with being that calm voice on the line when somebody calls in a panic?
Absolutely. This is a craft. I mean, this is something that we work on every day, and that's why my position exists. Is that this is something just like anything else in medicine that we're practicing every day. We have a difficult time assessing some of these calls. We have difficult calls. We have people that need to take some time to process some of this stuff. It is just as stressful as if you were on the field. But we have a lot of resources here at the City of Ames to handle stuff like that. And we are all very committed to practicing, again, this craft that's so incredibly important to us, providing this service.
And dispatching, of course, is a 24/7 kind of commitment. I think it attracts a special kind of person.
Oh, it absolutely does. We need people that are very focused, very driven, and very confident. This job requires a lot of confidence, and it's incredibly important that you kind of have that resolve to deal with this stuff, or at least you'll build it on the job.
Wow, well, this is really a great asset for the community, for citizens of Ames to know that people like you are there when they dial 911. And there'll be a calm, reassuring voice on the other end of the line.
Absolutely will.
Yeah, well, thank you for visiting with us.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Well, if you want to know more information about dispatchers, just remember April is National Dispatcher Month, and we'll have more information from the City of Ames to talk about what those dispatchers are doing. Again, they are there 24/7 if you ever need them. Some other things for your calendar as we get into April. Remember that the annual Eco Fair will be held from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, April 4th. That's at the Community Center Gym. And also, as always, if you want information about the City of Ames, check our website at cityofames.org or check us on Facebook or Twitter. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.